Hello, everyone. It's Juneteenth. Welcome to our Top 5 series for Ryerson's alumni and friends. My name is Christian Mehta, and I am the AVP of Engagement at the university. Before we begin, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land that was not only taken from them, but where Ryerson is located today. At the university, we have made a deep and long-lasting commitment to reconciliation and decolonization. And I invite you to learn more about this work online and in person next time we can get together on campus. So we're here to acknowledge the tremendous pain and horror we have witnessed over the last few weeks and mobilization on anti-Black racism. And this is why you are here with us now, to explore resistance, resilience, and support. We know you've got a lot on the go, so this is a 30-ish minute webinar. We might go over. That's okay. We'll dive in quickly, but before I introduce Dr. Green, I have a few quick housekeeping tips to share. In about 20 minutes, Dr. Green will be taking your questions. If you want to ask something, please add your question to the Zoom's Q&A area. Your cameras and mics are off, so I'll be selecting questions from there to present to Dr. Green. Second, if you're on social media, please use hashtag RUTop5. And finally, we are recording this session, so if you want to rewatch it or share it with your networks, please do. You're going to get this recording in your inbox over the next day or two. So now on to today's presenter. Dr. Denise O'Neill Green is Ryerson's Vice President, Equity and Community Inclusion. Under her leadership and advocacy, Ryerson has earned reputation for its excellence in equity, diversity, and inclusion. She was appointed to this inaugural role in 2017 after 4.5 years as the Assistant Vice President and Vice Provost of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. With over 25 years of experience, she's an inclusive, passionate, and strategic leader. Yes. Her contributions have led to Ryerson being recognized as one of Canada's best diversity employers for 5 consecutive years, from 2014 to 2019. In 2018, Dr. Green brought the White Privilege Conference Global Toronto to the campus. The conference addressed the role of privilege and oppression in Canada and was attended by over 600 delegates. Dr. Green also convened the first University and Research Funding Agency's Equity Officers Roundtable in 2018 to address strategies and greater alignment between universities and federal agencies with respect to equity, diversity, and inclusion, such important work. She has presented and published many book chapters, journal articles, and papers, and is the executive editor of institutionaldiversityblog.com. She is also the co-author of 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women, 2016 and 2018. A frequent speaker on issues of equity and inclusion in higher education, she has received several awards, including the 2017 Association for the Study of Higher Education Council on Ethnic Participation Founder Service Award, the 2016 Pioneers for Change Award, and Excellence in Women in Leadership, and named a Woman Worth Watching by Profiles in Diversity Journal in 2015. Dr. Green earned her PhD in Higher Education and Public Policy from the University of Michigan, a master's from Princeton, and a bachelor's from the University of Chicago. Wow, Dr. Green, we are so honored that you are here with us today. Over to you.
So hello, Christian, and I want to thank Ryerson Alumni Relations for the opportunity to chat with you all today. And I'll just start out by saying happy Friday. Hope your week has gone well. Hope you've been keeping safe, you've been keeping well, and that your family is doing fine also. So I will just jump right in. I'm going to share with you 5 ideas towards resistance and 5 ideas related to resilience so that we can strive forward in a very hopeful way. But I'll start out with a few definitions to keep in mind as we go through my top 5 and top 5. The path I want for you all is one of self-empowerment and agency. When we think about resistance, resistance is defined as the refusal to accept or comply with something or the act of preventing or using action to push back against a barrier. Resistance is a way you need to push back to survive and ideally thrive. It is the actions you take to resist white supremacy and oppression. Resilience is broadly defined as the ability to successfully deal with whatever life's challenges bring to us or confront us with. And resilience is how you can bolster yourself, fill up your stores to prepare yourself for what may be a lifelong journey of fighting against white supremacy and oppression. And lastly, when we think about resilience, resilience can be viewed as stress coping ability that varies with respect to context, time, age, gender, cultural origin. It shapes people's ability to positively adapt and adjust to things happening in their lives. So that gives us some definitions to work with. When we look at resilience, I have 5 points to share with you. Number 1, acknowledge, honor, and nurture your true feelings. How this shows up for people is as varied as we are. If anger is showing up, I encourage you to acknowledge that anger. Anger is a natural, productive, and necessary motivator that signals for you and warns you about what you're experiencing. And that could be racial violence, trauma, and stress. And those feelings are very valid and true. Anger helps us to understand and know that something's wrong, that injustice exists, and it's just simply not okay. I've actually been reading the book titled Rage Becomes Her, The Power of Women's Anger. Anger is a driving force for change and exercising power. Anger, when productive, can be a positive motivator towards survival, a rejection of the status quo, and can move you towards resistance that will help you survive. Maya Angelou said, "You should be angry. You must not be bitter. Bitterness is like a cancer. It eats upon the host. It doesn't do anything to the object of its displeasure. So use that anger. You write it, you paint it, you dance it, you march it, and you vote it. You do everything about it. You talk it. Never stop talking it," end quote. For some, behind that anger may be sorrow, grief, and sadness. Take the time to name and nurture those feelings. Number 2, under resilience, is find your community. Now is the time to find your people, ignite your community, and create transgenerational relationships with people who may have been on this journey for longer than yourself. Dr. Denise Brown is a researcher on African American resilience, and she shares racial socialization in children in the form of cultural pride and the teaching of heritage and history that can help foster resiliency. She also explains that the intermingling of families and extended community can form lasting bonds in the face of significant challenges, including racial discrimination and injustice. In a time of COVID-19, this means connecting online and virtual communities. When was your last virtual coffee? It could also mean using the tried and true technology, the telephone. Yes, the telephone. I called my brother in Chicago last week. I haven't spoken to him in such a long time. We made a connection and affirmed that we were there for each other. If we are to discuss resistance and resilience, we need to look at things from a communal approach. Individuals cannot by themselves hold the responsibilities of changing systems without support from the entire community. In yesterday's talk with the Faculty of Law, Kike Roach, Ryerson's Unifor National Chair in Social Justice and Democracy, tied this up with the example of Viola Desmond. Members of the community who were leaders, including Dr. Carrie Best and those of the Nova Scotia Association for the Advancement of Colored People, banded together to raise awareness of Viola's case. Moving on to point number 3 under resilience, physical activity and movement. With an awareness of your feelings, it's important to recognize where those difficult feelings are held in your body. Ask yourself, where does it live in my body? Where does it and how does it take form? Physical activity and movement is important for you to release and move energy in your body. Go for a walk. If you're able, ride a bike. Listen to music that you enjoy. These days, for me, I've been listening to the album Who is Jill Scott? Words and Sounds, Volume Number 1, which came out in 2010. This year is the 20th anniversary of the album's release. And I must confess, it takes me to a good place in a heartbeat. I also listen to jazz, Miles Davis and his album Kind of Blue, and Coltrane's Love Supreme are favorites of mine. Point number 4, mental and spiritual space. A holistic approach requires that you look at both psychological and mental well-being and your spiritual well-being. This can be connected to spiritual places, faith communities, and prayer, and take artistic form of expression and music, as I mentioned earlier. It can also form in making room in your mind for other topics. It can be using the privilege you have to disengage from these topics, at least for a few hours before you go to sleep. It can also be consuming media, movies, arts that are a welcome distraction. And the final point for number 5 under resilience, caring for yourself. Caring for yourself, I think, cannot be said better than by Audre Lorde, who said it best. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. For me, taking baths is one of those things I do just to slow down time and care for myself. So when we think about resistance, I have 5 points to share with you there, my top 5. So number 1 is really about being mindful and control your media consumption. I encourage you to be mindful and careful about your media consumption of the news related to racial injustices happening around the world, but also those graphic images, videos, etc., that are being replayed over and over again online and through social media. I can understand the thirst that we have for new information and needing to be updated. And this is a real phenomenon in our times, especially given 24-hour news channels. And while there's a great deal of importance of having news update video footage with respect to our call to justice, these videos are often mentally and emotionally traumatizing, especially if they depict murder. The rampant sharing of these videos is dehumanizing, and I argue that it shows how little Black lives are valued. If you are choosing to consume media, let it be your choice to engage deliberately rather than engaging passively. Many times, I often just turn away until a piece has finished or advance the video myself. Create those boundaries for when you do so. And if you must, take a pause to ask yourself how it will serve you and what you will do afterwards to take a break from what you have witnessed. Point number 2 under resistance: protect your personal boundaries. Be mindful of who you are engaging with, who you're letting in to your circle, and what questions you are being asked to answer. Many non-Black members of society are experiencing an awakening to the systemic oppression that has existed for decades, for centuries. As with the point about finding your community, surround yourself with a community of people who will validate your lived and living experiences. People who will show up and who will not put the emotional labor on you to teach them or show them the way towards change. Point number 3 under resilience: build capacity for change by helping others. By helping others who are similarly hurting, you can thereby help yourself. Studies have shown that helping others give us a sense of purpose, satisfaction, and connection. This is especially important in the time of COVID-19. Recent research also suggests that helping others regulate their emotions can help us regulate our own emotions, decrease symptoms of depression, and ultimately improve our emotional well-being. By taking on a role such as that of a mentor, a coach, a peer to young Black folks who are struggling to understand the world, you can make a positive impact that can ripple throughout your community. For point number 4, understand how racism is derived and how it shows up in our society. Increasing your own racial literacy and taking on self-study, be that reading books, listening to podcasts, watching documentaries featuring Black civil rights leaders and activists, is one way that you can better understand the world and what is around you and learn about how racism is derived, how it shows up in our society, and key historical frameworks that have lasting legacy. Some of you may know that I am from the United States. And when I moved here in 2012, there's a very significant difference in how racism manifests itself here versus in the US. And many times I was even told that racism doesn't exist in Canada, but we all know better. But again, that idea of self-study is very important. This could include, but certainly isn't limited to, your own internalized oppression. As people of color are victimized by racism, we internalize it. That is, we at times develop ideas, beliefs, actions, and behaviors that support or even collude with racism and white supremacy. Much like white people and their communities result in white privilege for some, and even white superiority. For racialized people, this can result in an internalized sense of the larger societal beliefs that they are racially inferior. Moreover, that their status is ill treatment in society is deserved and natural because of their race. So disrupting those type of internalized beliefs that work against us is very important to resist. By better understanding the way in which oppression plays out in our society, institutions, and individuals, you can better understand your own lived experience. And then my last top 5 for resistance is continue to hope. All I can say here is be hopeful, strive to be hopeful, continue to be hopeful. According to Cornel West, hope enacts the stance of the participant who actively struggles against the evidence in order to change the deadly tides of wealth inequality, group xenophobia, and personal despair. Only a new wave of vision, courage, and hope can keep us sane and preserve the decency and dignity requisite to revitalize our organizational energy for the work to be done. To live is to wrestle with despair, yet never to allow despair to have the last word. Apologies, lost my headset there for a minute. In closing, today in the United States, many are celebrating and commemorating Juneteenth, which is also considered Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. August 1st is Emancipation Day in Canada. When I lived in Nebraska, I celebrated Juneteenth more regularly. Reflecting on the current state of affairs, there is an apparent irony when it comes to these celebrations. but I see them squarely within the framework of our topic for today of resistance and resilience. I know many of you are tired and weary, but let us not give up hope and continue to hope. Take this time to reflect, learn, and activate resources to empower yourselves and members of the Black community. Don't give up on your collective actions for Black liberation and a more inclusive future for us all. Thank you.
A very powerful guidance. And I think this was a very important time, especially today, to hear from you. Lots of questions here, so we're going to dive in. Here's a question from Natalie. What about resisting within the context of employment? Natalie's noticed a widespread endorsement for employees who want to attend climate change protests, but not necessarily anti-Black racism protests. How does one resist when they feel like there are only a few asking for time away to attend something like this?
So just to clarify the question, it's about there being almost understanding that it's okay to be a part of certain kinds of resistance, but not others.
I think so. I think that's where the question's going.
Yes, yes. So in understanding that aspects of racism, I would say even more so here in Canada, because there has been a history, a mythology that racism doesn't exist, including anti-Black racism not existing here. It really begins with helping our community to understand that it exists and it is actually a part of climate change. When we think about the climate, it's not just simply the physical aspect of climate change. And even when we talk about sustainability, sustainability also includes sustainability in terms of one's community, in terms of the people, and making sure they are sustained and secure. So I would look at it from a standpoint that is not exclusive to aspects of anti-racism, but that it should actually embrace the resistance of anti-racism, and also anti-racism that is environmental, racism that connects with the environment. So there is reason, there are many reasons for those who embrace addressing climate change to embrace actions of anti-racism and anti-Black racism in particular.
That's great. This question is from Dale. Is there advice on how to keep this issue on the political and organizational agendas in the months or years to follow? And how can we keep our leaders accountable? Sorry, Denise.
I think if I
2
had,
minutes for each question.
right, if I had the true and right answer for that, I would bottle it up and sell it. I think it takes all of us to make sure the A word, accountability, is a reality. Not only for those who are a part of the community, who expects accountability, but those who are within organizations to continue to put accountability on the table. And making sure that's happening from all different fronts or sides of an organization or society is needed. Again, referring back to Cornel West's quote about, you may see the evidence around you that says something to the very opposite of what you want to see, and it may bring about despair, but we know that we continue to strive to hope because we're fighting for that better, hopeful type of world for all of us.
That's great. This question is from Donette. She says, thank you so much, Denise. What are some practical steps that we can take to show real action for the Black Lives Matter movement besides just talking?
Wow, just talking. Well, actually, talking is a good thing because I would say in Canada, most folks haven't talked about it at all. And there has been a culture to suppress that discussion. Now that our community, in terms of those who are white and those from other communities, are in recognition of that, there are different steps that have been coming out. Speaking to one, solidarity with Black Lives Matter, raising when you're in a decision-making setting to make sure you place those issues on the table. The earlier question about accountability, holding people accountable and making sure that the challenges of those from the Black community aren't left to the corners, but is centered within your organization. There's also been calls to provide funding and support to Black Lives Matter organizations. But I would also say, looking within organizations, providing support for community networks that support Black employees is very important. And then also the aspect of education. Have to mention that because we're part of Ryerson. Our main goal is about educating people, but educating people about oppression, about anti-racism, about resistance. I would say those are some things we can do. In addition to retweeting and all that, that's fine and good, but that only goes so far. And unfortunately, there oftentimes, after the media has moved on to the next hot topic of the day, then there are those of us who are very dedicated and want to see change. And we have to make sure that we maintain the struggle in resisting.
That's great. We are at time, but there's one more question. Can we do it?
Okay, let's go
Let's
for
try
it.
it. Let's try it. When schools do reopen for children and youth, how do you believe teachers should embed resilience within the classroom to create community?
Oh, I love that. Embed resilience. Well, to me, resilience really starts with recognizing whatever classroom setting, educational setting you're starting with, that all of your students are human, that all of your students have a very special experience, and to respect that experience, to center that experience, and to bring forward very positive images, encouragement, empowerment, and actions that will help all of your students support their own identities and cultures. Unfortunately, many of us, especially old timers like myself, have been in classrooms where the curriculum did not reflect the students. It didn't show positive images. The only discussion about African American people in my classrooms was about slavery and not much else. So the idea of instilling resilience means showing those examples, those role models of people who have resisted and who have been resilient, to encourage their own traditions and legacies of resilience and struggle as well. And just to close, when I was in high school and elementary school, I was very, very fortunate in that many, if not most of my teachers were African American and African American women who were very supportive of all of the students in the classroom. and who were there and understood, there for us and understood who we are and understood our potential. And every morning after we said the Pledge of Allegiance, we also said or sang the Black National Anthem in the classroom. And I remember that to this day. And
Wow.
it helped to instill who we are.
Very powerful words to end on. Thank you, Dr. Green, for being with us today. Um, we look forward to another opportunity where we can have you back. It looks like from our entire registration list, there are people who really want you back right now. We could probably talk for another hour or so. But thank you again for being here and for the perspective and guidance. Um, and to all of you who participated today, thank you for making the time to be part of this conversation. We will, as I mentioned earlier, be sending a recording of this presentation by Dr. Green. So check your inbox for that. Please rewatch it. Please share it with your friends and colleagues, families, and neighbors. And please do register for additional webinars coming your way soon. That's all for this afternoon. And Solidarity and Power, we will be in touch again very, very soon. Bye for now. Thanks, Dr. Green.